Hey, my name is Scott Engler. I'm the author of The Job Interview, Legends of the Recruiting and Career World, and the upcoming book, 21st Job Seeker of the 21st Century, the University Edition. And what I do is I am a coach and a consultant and a workshop presenter, but I work a lot with career transition, whether that's someone wanting to develop themselves as an entrepreneur, or whether that's someone that is transitioning industries, any type of career achievement or enhancement. And what I've learned for myself and my work with others is that this is a process. It's not, a one-time quick fix thing in 95% of the cases. I would say closer to 99.9% of the cases, but there's always exceptions. However, both for myself and the people that I work with on a regular basis, there's a process required to get to that level of excellence. And I know in the title I mentioned something about Donald Trump not going through the necessary process. I'm going to get to that in a second. I read an interesting statistic today, which I wanted to use to really drive my point home, which is that 70% of people who win the lottery, not only do they go bankrupt, but they go bankrupt within 5 years. I think that was actually more surprising to me, because I had heard that a lot of people that won the lottery went bankrupt, but I didn't know it was that quickly. And I was reading a little bit more into the article, and what financial experts and advisors were saying is it's because they went from took such a big jump of what kind of life they were living, lifestyle, to this one, and then they feel invincible and they don't know how to handle having that much money, and so they give it away, or and they end up going bankrupt, literally bankrupt within 5 years. So it's not, none of us are the exceptions here. We all need to go through some type of process and challenge, and really go through that stretching period. And of course, we all want the quick fix. I'm not excluded from that. It's like, you want to have that book that sells 1 million copies right away. And, I've had to definitely learn things the more challenging way, like my inner child that wants something right away and wants it when they want it. And the reason I bring up Donald Trump, and, I'm going to clarify first that I'm by no means an expert on his life, and I'm by no means attempting to make this into any type of political debate, because that's not my area of expertise. So I want to really be clear about that. But since, Donald Trump seems to be such a huge figure in our society today in the US, and, so many people have something to say about him, I thought it would be a good, relevant example that could really, hit home for people, because we're again, you can't not see that guy and hear stuff about him. And one of the things that, I do know and continues to get pointed out is that he's just got a crazy sense of entitlement. And I was listening to some senator the other day, and she was saying how he's avoided, disclosing his taxes, his federal taxes, and, this, that, and the other. And, for me, it's like, I don't know one way or the other. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm not trying to call anything out in that case. But what I am trying to point out is that it's well known that Donald Trump inherited a large fortune from his family. And what I've found in some aspects, in both myself and other kids that maybe grow up a little more privileged, because let's be honest, compared to most, if you're a middle-class American, that you are privileged. And I've found that if you didn't have the right kind of parenting and were just handed things, that it is easy to be spoiled and entitled. And it's something that I've had to work through myself. So I'm not by any means pointing fingers here. I'm saying that I had to learn these tough lessons myself and realize that things are a process. And so, I understand that with the clients I work with. But for Donald Trump's case, it's like still, he has this sense of entitlement. And, what part of that is that, not to say, discredit any of his work, because again, I'm not claiming to be an expert on Donald Trump's life, but what I am saying, the point I'm trying to make, is that he inherited a fortune, kind of like the same way that people inherit a fortune from the lottery. And what that could do to people if they don't go through that process, that necessary process to get from here to here, is that it actually has that negative effect long term, whatever it is. Even if, maybe in Donald Trump's case, he still has a lot of money. We don't even really know if he's not disclosing his taxes, according to that senator. But regardless, what's his attitude is another, big thing. Like, what's his attitude about his money and about just the process he went through, and maybe that sense of entitlement. So again, it's like, well, people could have a lot of money and maybe it was, handed to them through an inheritance, and maybe they even still have the money in the 30% of cases of people that win the lottery that don't go broke. But there's a very, very good chance that if that's the case, then they might not have the best relationships with people in their lives. And more importantly, they may not feel truly fulfilled. And that's, that's, I think, the biggest and most important thing, is that as human beings, we need to go through some type of process to get to the next level, to get that achievement. It's like training for a marathon. It's the journey, not the destination. They say that people are most happy actually during the process and not the destination. So what I really want to drive home is the necessary process. And in my working with clients, I've only just started my business, and about 3 years ago now. I've been doing this kind of work for a lot longer, but as far as specifically focusing on coaching people in career achievement, I did it as a counselor, as part of a social work, my social work side of it and case management. But as far as just in my own business, I've been doing it for, just around 3 years. And what I see is that people want to get a job right away, especially if they're not working or if they're in a lot of pain at their current job. It's like, right, we want to get out of pain right away. And trust me, I totally get that. And, that's a completely natural feeling. The challenge is when there's that expectation, when they think that I'm going to get them be able to get them like their dream job in 30 days, when they've been doing the same thing for probably years and years and years. And there's a lot of underlying beliefs, a lot of, deep-seated things, I'm sure, that are keeping them at their job, or maybe keeping them in the same type of patterns. So to think that, to have that expectation is very unrealistic. And while I understand that feeling, right, I need to get a job right now, is going to set them up for disappointment. So, what I tell my clients, because sometimes I sense like they think that I am wanting them to work with me longer because I want more money, which is actually the opposite. I was talking to a client yesterday. I said, listen, if I could get people their dream job within 30 days and guarantee that every time, I would be a freaking millionaire. I'd be a billionaire. You know what I mean? And so it's like, hey, at first, it's like, if I could get someone like a really good job, like in 6 weeks, blah, 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 and be able to show that and put it online, like, yeah, like, and sometimes you see those advertisements, like, get the job you want in 30 days. It's like, okay, well, go ahead and try that, and see what happens. And so what I've really paid close attention to in my working with clients, because I have been open to the process and how long that takes, where someone is when we first meet. There's a big difference. Some clients have gotten jobs a lot quicker, but when they came to me, they had already done a lot of the back end work, and through maybe other coaches or courses and stuff. And so really they were just needing help with just kind of tweaking the resume a little bit, but mainly just the interviewing and selection process. So it's a case-by-case basis about exactly how long it takes. But what I find is, it seems like the sweet spot is around 10 to 12 weeks. And what I like to do, because at first I was doing it a little bit less, I was giving people like a 5-week option and a 10-week option. And I just found that 5 weeks is just, there's not enough time. What I found is when people get closer to that higher level, that highest level, this is what I found more than anything, is that when people get this, when they've done a lot of the training and then they just need to go enter the race, that's when everything hits the fan usually. It's usually like just before they get there where their survival patterns come into play, and the fear and the uncertainty and the fear of the unknown, right? There's so many things that happen, and people will, for lack of a better word, sabotage their own success. But it's really just it's a defense mechanism, right? We have this wiring, it's in our amygdala, where it's the fight or flight. And if we are more comfortable with what we know, even if that is not a good situation, there's a reason that people stay in abusive relationships. I used to work as a marriage and family therapist and a trauma center too. It's like, there's a reason that people stay in unhealthy relationships and unhealthy jobs. It doesn't mean they're stupid. It doesn't, not at all. It's a lot deeper than that. And, things like addiction and just being driven by our survival patterns. So you could feel like you're going to die is the thing when you're doing something new. And it could be the best thing. And I've had to go through it too. It's like when I moved out of state, I thought I was going to die. I was so freaking scared. I had never moved out of state. And it's like, but once I got here and I got situated, I was like, oh my God, why didn't I do this sooner? But like, if you would have talked to me a week later, I'm like, oh my God, like the world's going to end. And so it's a really challenging process. And so I have a lot of respect for that process. And because of that, if someone's coming to me and they want a job, their dream job in 30 days, I would honestly at this point tell them, okay, well, if that's strongly how you feel and you're not going to listen to what I'm saying, then you're not the client for me and I'm not the coach for you. Because I've just found over and over again that it's a process, and it's not a process to be rushed. And that's my other point, is even if I've gotten clients and, I've been experimenting with the time process, and that's why I'm really passionate about speaking about it today, is even like 6 weeks. It's like, okay, so let's do 6 weeks. Let's meet twice a week. But there's still that process, and you don't want to rush that. There's beliefs that need to be tweaked. There's perceptions. There's things that need to happen somewhat organically, and sometimes that happens a lot quicker. Sometimes that happens slower. And so I don't want to put that type of pressure on them and myself, because we don't have ultimately control of what that process looks like sometimes. And but I find patterns when people are doing the work and they're really open, where that seems to be that sweet spot of about 10 to 12 weeks. And so that's why I'm really sharing this today, because it's so important to know. If you just got out of a relationship and it was a bad relationship for 15 years, let's say, would you want to jump back into another relationship in the next month? And would you think that the relationship that you get right after that would be necessarily a better quality one? Most cases, 99.9, no. You want to take a step back, maybe process what happened in that last relationship. What did you learn? What do you now know that you don't want? What do you really want? Taking some time to really take a step back. Okay, what's going on here? Lots of times there's trauma, either from, that job that you got fired from, and people get let go after 15 years. When I was working with people in Amgen, it's like, that's a shock, and so it's like even allowing yourself to just accept it and grieve it and process it. So it's a very important thing to know, that if you want the good results, if you want to get in that quality relationship, if you want to get that quality job, if you want to get to that level that you've never been at before, it's not going to happen overnight. There's going to be a process that you're going to need to go through. And that's my main point. So if anyone is watching this and they know that they're going to need to do that, and look, again, just because that's true doesn't mean that we have to necessarily like it right away. Look, of course, again, when I started a business, if you would have told me how hard it was going to be and how challenging it was going to be and how many ups and downs and this, that, and the other, I might, I probably wouldn't have done it at that point. But I'm glad that I have. I don't have any regrets, and it really has taught me a lot of value about the process itself. And so I have respect for it, and I understand the resistance to it and not wanting it, and our inner child screaming, I want the candy now, I want the candy now. I totally get it. But if you know deep within yourself, and if you know from your higher aspect, from your logical part, that this is not going to happen overnight to get you the highest level of results, and that's something you want, come talk to me, find me on LinkedIn, Scott Engler, ENGLER. My website's www.thejobinterview.com, and or shoot me an email. All right, well, till next time.